Welcome to the Zen Studies Podcast. I'm Domio Burke. Thanks, as usual, to new supporting members of the podcast, Mike from Tucson, Arizona, Alexis from Swedesboro, New Jersey, Lauren from Enola, Pennsylvania, Fergus from Dublin, Ireland, Adam from San Francisco, California, Mary from Crocker Hill in New Brunswick, Canada, Imtiaza from North Perth in Western Australia, and William from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Thank you so much. So welcome to the episode Practice is How You Live Each and Every Moment, Part 1. Fairly often, I hear someone reflecting on their Buddhist practice and expressing a sense of inadequacy about it. They might say, "My practice hasn't been very good lately." Usually this is because their life has been very busy, or because of significant health issues. Whenever I hear someone imply that their practice is inadequate because of their life circumstances, it makes me sad. Not only for their sake, but because I think to myself, how have I failed to convey the essence of practice, which is how you live each and every moment of whatever life you have. Usually, when people evaluate their practice, they call to mind what I call formal practice. Formal practice involves activities with a particular form. Practice you can look at and recognize as Buddhist practice, including attending Sangha events, going to silent retreats, doing Dharma study, consulting with a teacher, or participating in ceremonies. Even Zazen, seated meditation, is a form. Now, all of these forms support and enrich our practice. However, they're not the most important aspect of it. The most important aspect is how you live each moment. When it comes to this most important aspect of practice, there are no circumstances which can possibly obstruct it. You can practice every moment on your deathbed. You can practice every moment in a busy life raising small kids. You can practice every moment in the midst of a demanding career. You can practice every moment in a life constrained by chronic pain or illness. Every moment in life circumstances largely dictated by financial difficulty. You can practice in prison. Nothing whatsoever disqualifies you or makes your practice one iota less legitimate. Practice in these kinds of situations can be difficult, but only because you don't usually get to avail yourself of the supportive and regenerative aspects of practice, like spending time with Sangha, listening to teachings, or sharing the space of silence with others. The message that the essence of practice is how you live each moment is not just about people in busy or challenging lives who have to practice every moment instead of doing formal practice. This practice is the most important thing for all of us. If you attend Sangha or enjoy contemplating the Dharma while listening to a talk or a podcast, or feel lovely during your Zazen, but then when that activity is over, you think you're not practicing anymore, that is very unfortunate. You're not only giving up the precious opportunity to practice during 90% of your waking hours or more, you're missing the most essential aspect of the Dharma, how we show up for this very life. Think of practice each and every moment as the other 90% of practice for most of us. And if your life circumstances do not allow you to do much formal practice at all, maybe this is almost 100% of your practice. In this episode, I'll talk about what it means to practice each and every moment, breaking it down into 3 essential aspects. Then I'll offer an example of how such practice might look in everyday life. And then in the next episode, I'm going to continue this discussion. So what is practice each and every moment? It means allowing every choice you make to be informed by your deepest aspirations. Now, there's many different ways someone might define this, but this is the approach I'm taking right now. Allowing every choice you make to be informed by your deepest aspirations. The opposite of practice is living according to karma. Karma is the universal law of behavioral cause and effect. And your personal karma is the sum total of your past choices and experiences as manifested in your body, speech, and mind. Some karma, of course, is positive, but much of it is reactionary or unconscious. Simply allowing yourself to be carried along by karma, by causation, often leads to the perpetuation of negative habits and mind states. And when we live according to karma, we essentially follow the path of least resistance, remaining trapped in patterns that may not be taking full advantage of this precious human life. Alternatively, we can practice, which means allowing every choice we have to be shaped by our deepest aspirations. We all share deep aspirations. Every one of us has our own character, interests, and circumstances, but most of us, want to contribute to the world by fulfilling our responsibilities, giving the best we can. Maybe by leaving behind well-adjusted children, or knowledge, or innovation, or a job well done. We want to be fully awake for our lives and appreciative of the time we have, to be compassionate and forgiving, to live with self-awareness, and to harm others as little as possible, to know who we really are and to manifest authentically, to awaken to reality with a capital R and experience the liberation promised by the Buddhas. The list could go on. As I envision it, practice each and every moment has 3 aspects: awareness, aspiration, and actualization. This is practice you can take with you anywhere, so you might think of this as having AAA on your side when you navigate the days and nights of your life. So, awareness. In order to live according to your deepest aspirations, you have to be aware of what's going on around you as well as within you. In Zen, we call this being mindful. And we think of it as the practice we're doing whenever we're not on the meditation seat. I've done a number of episodes on mindfulness, including episode 7, Beyond Mindfulness, the Radical Practice of Undivided Presence, and episode 80, 4 Foundations of Mindfulness Practice and Similarities in Zen. The basic idea is to be aware as possible as we go about our daily lives. There are different levels and types of awareness, but it's not necessary to overthink the practice of mindfulness. I find it helpful to simply ask myself at any given moment, am I undivided? Much of the time, the answer to this question will be no. Some part of me will be anticipating something that might happen in the future, or analyzing some situation that bears little or no relationship to where I currently am. Some part of me may be resisting my current circumstances, thinking I don't like this or I shouldn't have to experience this. If something particularly upsetting or exciting is happening in my life, I may be so absorbed in thinking about it that I'm largely oblivious to anything else. When I notice I'm divided, then, I bring my attention to what's actually going on. The Sanskrit Buddhist term translated as mindfulness is sati, which means to recall or remember. Mindfulness means to remember what's going on. There may be a place and time to plan, anticipate, analyze, and all the rest. But most of the time, I want to be experiencing my life as it's happening for its own sake. Mindfulness isn't just limited to what you can see and hear in your immediate environment either. It includes a mindfulness, awareness of your own mental states and the presence or absence of things like spiritual hindrances or factors of enlightenment. One classic method for maintaining mindfulness once you've remembered what you're doing, once you're no longer so divided, is to become aware of your breathing for a while. There are many other practices for cultivating mindfulness, and I've discussed them on the podcast before, including Nyoho, or making even our smallest mundane actions accord with the Dharma, which I discuss in episodes 87 and 88. It's something you can practice wherever you are, whatever you're doing. You can practice mindfulness when you're driving, washing the dishes, changing diapers, sitting through chemotherapy, or having a conversation. In our each and every moment practice, mindfulness is cultivated for its own sake, to be awake for and appreciative of our life, but it's also a critical element in living by choice instead of by karma. Once we've remembered where we are and noticed what we're doing, we recall our deepest aspirations. Such aspirations frame the present moment, orienting us and giving us guidelines for our behavior or directions in which to move. In Buddhism, our deepest aspirations are described in many different ways. We have the moral precepts, which help us maintain harmonious and respectful relationships, and also help us study the self, which I've talked about on the podcast. We have the paramitas, or perfections, of generosity, ethical behavior, energy, tolerance, concentration, and wisdom. We have the Brahma Viharas, or the four sublime social attitudes of a bodhisattva: giving, kind speech, beneficial action, and identity action, or being in the same boat with living beings. There's the bodhisattva ideal itself, beings who devote themselves to awakening, but vow to remain in the world until all other beings are also liberated from suffering. And note that in the version of this episode, written version on the website, I have lots of links to other episodes where I talk about each of these things, precepts, paramitas, Brahma Viharas, etc. So it's all well and good to work toward ideals of being a good person with some degree of equanimity. But what makes our aspirations Zen or Buddhist? Buddhist aspirations include being a good, moral, generous person, but they go beyond this. We want to awaken to reality with a capital R, because to do so liberates us from suffering, both gross and subtle, in a profound and deep way. It also vastly increases our capacity to help others. We want to understand the nature of dukkha and how to let go of it, to realize for ourselves how we and all beings and things are empty of any enduring, independent, inherent self-nature, to perceive suchness, or how everything is precious just as it is because of emptiness. Now, having a teacher doing Dharma study, doing meditation retreats, helps us clarify and maintain our aspirations about awakening. However, we live our lives in reality with a capital R. So enlightenments, large and small, are possible anytime, anywhere. Practice each and every moment means paying keen attention to our direct experience, investigating, questioning, looking deeper. If we're practicing, we try not to dismiss anything. We try to avoid thinking, oh, I've seen this before, or there's nothing worth paying attention to here. Part of our difficulty in maintaining our aspirations each and every moment is the fact that we discount our daily life, figuring there's nothing profound to be learned there. However, many celebrated moments of awakening in Zen literature involve someone waking up while doing something completely mundane. Crossing a bridge, sweeping, carrying a bucket of water, or having an apparently ordinary verbal exchange with someone. In a silent Zen retreat, you're asked to pay intense attention to each and every thing, as if enlightenment is shining through it. Whether that's eating, brushing your teeth, chopping a carrot, chanting, the feeling of the sunshine on your face, the sound of the wind in the trees, or a tiny bug crawling across the Zendo floor. There's nothing special about the activities and experiences in a Zen retreat in this respect. Enlightenment also shines through your child's face, an overlong work meeting, driving your car, or your mug of tea. Of course, it's extremely easy to lose mindfulness and forget our aspirations as we go about our daily lives, especially if we have many responsibilities or are facing challenges. But this doesn't mean the other 90% of our life, when we're not engaged in formal practice, is an inferior venue for awakening. Yes, in some ways it's tougher because there are more distractions than in formal practice settings. But that means whatever mindfulness or aspiration we manage to achieve or maintain in our daily life is strong and durable. The third aspect of practice each and every moment is actualization. You've become aware of what's going on and recalled your aspirations. Now what? If practice ended there, well, even then it wouldn't be a bad thing. But you might end up a little more dissatisfied than before you started practicing, if essentially you're just carrying around a bunch of aspirations and ideals with greater awareness of how you fall short of fulfilling them. To actualize means to make actual or real, turn into action or fact. How do we do this? Formal Buddhist practice includes all kinds of teachings and tools relevant to actualization, to bringing about real change and gaining a direct personal experience of what the teachings are pointing to. Actually, just about any formal practice I can think of, meditation, studies, spending time with Sangha, supports and encourages all three aspects of moment-by-moment practice: awareness or mindfulness, aspiration, and actualization. The three aspects are rarely delineated when discussing Zen practices, as anything done wholeheartedly partakes of all three. But how do we actualize our aspirations outside of formal practice, during the other 90 to 100% of our lives? There are doubtless many ways to answer this question, but I think it comes down to finding and utilizing our moments of choice. I described this process as it happens during Zazen in episode 250, where I suggested that most of what goes through our head, much of it, is beyond our conscious control. Thoughts, feelings, and impulses simply arise. We find ourselves caught up in them, only partially aware of what's going on in the moment. But then mysteriously, we wake up from the dream of thought. Our awareness expands, including not only what we were just thinking about, but also our physical posture, how we're feeling, what's going on around us, and our aspirations. This is a moment of choice. What do we do with that choice? Do we allow karma to carry us forward, or do we pause and look for a way to fulfill our deepest aspirations? Our fleeting moments of choice are, as you might say, where the rubber meets the road in terms of practice. In other words, this is where practice becomes real or manifested. How do you live this very life? All the formal practices that support actualization simply create conducive conditions. Ultimately, it comes down to what you choose to do right here, right now. Buddhism gives you basic guidelines on which to build your aspirations, but it doesn't give you specifics about what choices to make moment by moment in your life. It can't. Every circumstance you face is unique, and you are unique. No one can see inside your head. No one knows what it's like to be you, or how your brain and body work. If you want to practice, every day of your life is like a journey you're taking all on your own. Fortunately, you can get guidance and support from others who are on similar journeys, but when it comes right down to it, no one else is looking out of your eyes, or speaking your words, or experiencing your life. My point about finding and utilizing your moment-by-moment choices is perhaps best illustrated by an example. Let's say someone in your life, your child, parent, partner, coworker, friend, does something that upsets you. How could they do that, you think? You could just let your reactions unfold from there. Maybe you would justify yourself, express your anger, or try to get the other person to apologize or change. Karma will carry you through the dance, causing you to be more self-centered than you would like, or constraining your ability to interact with the other person in a fruitful and compassionate way. Alternatively, let's say you notice you're upset and your awareness expands a little, giving you a moment of choice. You take a moment to center yourself in your breathing and try to be mindful. You notice your body tensing up with frustration, your thoughts racing as you imagine ways to convey to this person how upset you are. You notice the facial expression and behavior of the other person, and how they also seem distraught or tense. As soon as we are mindful, we are not entirely caught up. So even though you're pretty sure you think you're right, a bit of mindfulness allows you to recognize the other person probably thinks the same thing. Or if they realize they were at least partially in the wrong, they're probably feeling defensive. You remember that things are complicated, and your perceptions are not synonymous with reality. Then you remind yourself of your deepest aspirations. In this case, it might be harmony, compassion, equanimity, care, love for this person. It isn't necessary to review your intentions at length, although it might be helpful in certain circumstances. Mostly you can simply go, at least for the moment, with a felt sense of wanting to minimize harm and maximize happiness for everyone involved. Your next significant moment of choice, and of course there have actually been all kinds of moments already, is when you decide what to say. Do you let the first thing you think come out of your mouth? Or do you pause for a moment and see if you can find words that are a little more in accord with your deepest aspirations? Your karmic response might be to express anger or get defensive, say something snide or dismissive, or shut down. Can you soften or qualify your words or make I statements? As the interaction with the other person unfolds, it's very unlikely that they immediately and sincerely understand your concern and apologize and change their behavior. When an impasse remains, you have another moment of choice. Do you keep restating your case, driven by a need to be right? Or do you ask them a meaningful question? Do you dwell on your upset, or do you try to connect with your vulnerability and your need for respect? Or maybe it's your need to know the other person is safe, or whatever is most relevant. After the interaction, however it turns out, you have another choice. Do you perseverate on the conflict for the rest of the day, or do you set the thoughts aside as best you can and pay mindful attention to what you're doing? It's not so easy to even find the moments of choice sometimes, let alone take advantage of them when you notice them and learn to make new choices. That's a fascinating part of practice. It involves lots of experimentation, making mistakes, careful observation of cause and effect, and creativity. It's helpful to bring a spirit of determined inquiry to this moment-by-moment experiential practice, as if you're a scientist, engineer, or inventor, trying to figure out how something actually works. What works to turn your mind toward a more positive course? How do you actually manage to let go of preoccupying thoughts and emotions? What works to allow you to stay centered in the here and now so you can respond authentically to others? It's easy to end up carrying around a list of shoulds in your head and then simply beating yourself up with them. We often try to fulfill our aspirations through sheer force of will. If our mind is going down a negative path, we simply think to ourselves, stop it, and expect things to change. We nag ourselves internally to let things go, but it doesn't seem to help. We tell ourselves to stay centered next time someone upsets us. But once again, we get flustered and lose track of what we really wanted to say to them. In our each and every moment practice, we need to be aware not only of what we're experiencing or responding to, but also how we're trying to practice with it. Are we trying the same thing over and over, imagining that gritting our teeth and really meaning it this time will open new possibilities for our actions of body, speech, and mind? Or are we trying new things and learning from what does or doesn't work? In our example about an interaction with someone in your life who has just upset you, maybe you keep trying not to express anger in such situations, but time and time again it just comes out anyway. Instead of just feeling like you're failing in this regard, maybe you try doing some regular metta practice for the person when you're not with them. Or maybe you call something to mind before speaking, like times when this person is funny, affectionate, or kind. Or you recall how sad and scared you felt when your parent would yell at you when you were a child. Or maybe you put your hand on your heart in the middle of an interaction to calm you and help you connect with your deepest aspirations. Using the attitude of a scientist or an engineer, think of this as a problem which can be solved. There is a way to respond differently. You just have to find it. Now, the example I've been discussing may lead you to believe that practice each and every moment is just karma work, which is about understanding and taking responsibility for the karma you've ended up with. In practical terms, changing your actions of body, speech, and mind. I discussed karma work at length in episode 234, Spiritual Inquiry, Part 4, Investigating and Resolving Karmic Issues. That episode led into a discussion of what I call awakening work, which involves striving for a direct personal experience of the deeper truths of our existence, truths we share with all life. Practice each and every moment in the midst of everyday life can also be awakening work. I'll talk about this in part 2, as well as explaining why I've been emphasizing choice so much when the self is empty of inherent enduring self-nature. Who is choosing, after all? I hope you'll tune in. Thanks for listening.